Hello, and today I'm going to be teaching you on how you can make this 3D Valorant thumbnail inside of Photoshop. So without any further ado, let's get started. So first of all, you need to make a new Photoshop file by pressing Ctrl N or going to file and then new. Now you have two options: make it in 1920 by 1080p or make it in 1280 into 720p. I personally like to use 1920 to 1080p as it's more clear and gives you more space to work with. So we wanna hit create, and then we have to import some files and folders into our Photoshop file so that we can use them. For that we need to do file, place embedded. So now I'll be right back after importing my files into the Photoshop. So now I imported two files. First is this chamber 3D model which I made in Blender, and second is this background of Valorant. Now we have to adjust the position of the model to the center. For that we're going to select the model, and first of all we have to rasterize it, as right now it is a smart object, so we're gonna rasterize layer, and now we have to press Ctrl T and just move it to the center. Now that looks good. So as you can see, this gun part is kind of cut it out, so to fix that we have to just click on the layer, Ctrl T, and then resize it, like make it bigger until it is not seen. And then we just do this, and voila, that looks pretty good. So now we have to select the background layer and then Ctrl T and just zoom it, because I don't want the gun part to be visible or this minimap. So just keep zooming it in until it is not visible, like this. And don't worry about the quality, as we are gonna Gaussian blur it later. So the thing that I do for my background is I create a new layer below the background layer and fill it with black color like this, and then I create a new layer above the background layer and fill it with the color that I want my background to be, like for in this case yellow. So we're just gonna fill it. Now you'll say that it looks pretty bad as the whole yellow has covered the background. So to fix that we just have to change its blending mode to overlay. Now it looks too bright. Now we are gonna select the background layer and change its opacity to however much we like. So now you can see it gives it kind of a cool effect that is dark yellow type, which is pretty cool. And now what we're gonna do is we are gonna create a layer below the subject, our chamber model, and we're gonna select a yellow color lighter than the one we use in the background, like this, and we're just gonna create some splashes like this. So what this does is that it separates a subject from the background, so that's why we do this. And so yeah, we can also do like this so that it brightens up and it looks pretty good. So as you can see that our subject is now looking more visible than the background, and to increase the focus more on the subject we can go to the background layer, filter, blur and Gaussian blur, and just blur it like this. So now the depth of field has created so that our focus is more on the subject rather than the background. Now comes the most difficult and the most interesting part, the highlights. I'm just gonna be creating a new brush and I'm gonna be using that for the highlights. So I'll see you guys in a minute. So now I made this brush with some settings and some effects, so that, and if you want to know how I'm making this brush bigger and smaller like that, you need to hold the alt and the right click and drag left to right for its size to increase and up and down for the hardness. So now I made this brush which actually looks neonish, kinda like this. So if you change blending mode to normal and 100%, you can see it gives a neonish kind of effect, which looks pretty cool. And if you play Valorant, then you have seen that the champions bundle actually glows when you're the top fragger. So I want to do that effect for the whole subject. Guys, I forgot to tell you or mention in the recording of how to make this brush preset. I completely forgot it, so now I'm showing you. So first you need to take the brush, set its color to white, set the foreground color to white, and then
you just brush, you just draw something, and then you apply these effects and see if they look good. So the inner glow should be of these settings, color overlay should be of the color that you want the highlights to be, outer glow should also be that color, and you can copy the settings by pausing the video. And these are the drop shadow settings, and its color should also be the color that you want the highlights to be. So yeah, there it is. Sorry for not mentioning it.
So what I'm gonna do is create a clipping mask by holding Alt key and pressing between these two layers so that it creates a clipping mask. Now anything we do outside the subject will not be seen, but anything we do here will be seen. So to create the highlights you need to create a very small brush and just cover it like this. So now it's a pretty lengthy process, but it is the thing that makes your thumbnail looks more good, and it makes your thumbnail kind of pop out from the rest. So I'm gonna see you after I've done this. So now as you have seen, we have created an outline around the whole subject. So now he looks more like that vandal when it's glowing. So now what we are gonna do is we are gonna select the smudge tool, which is right over here. Yours is gonna be the blur tool, but when you right click it, then you can select the smudge tool. And now what we'll do is, like you can see there in some parts it's too white. Like I don't want it to be so white around this fingertip. So I'm just gonna use the smudge tool to just wipe it off. And now you can see that it actually got a lot more cleaner. And like the blade of the karambit, you can actually do that as well. And here the handle and all, so you can make it look way more better. And you see this, how the fingertips, you can actually just do this for them so that it looks like the light is coming to the whole fingers and not just the boundaries, if that makes sense. Of course it does, I guess. So yeah, this is a pretty lengthy process, but trust me, it actually makes your thumbnail looks 10 times better. Like you can see the jawline here, there should be some light affecting it, but it's not. But when we use the smudge tool, the light actually gets it, and it looks very prettier. Like look how much detail it adds to the whole thumbnail. And that's the thing that we're gonna do to the full thumbnail. Like the hair also, that the light should come all the way to the forehead type, but it's not, so it's not realistic enough. So now as you have seen, the thumbnail looks way more better because of those smudge tool. And now what else I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna duplicate this chamber model by Control J, and then I'm just gonna put it on upside. Now you see the highlights have gotten like everywhere, they are just looking really bad, so you gotta recreate that clipping mask. But now you'll see the highlights are gone, so that's because we have this duplicated layer above. When we Control T and move it, we can see the highlights are still there, so there's nothing to worry about. So now what we are gonna do is just select out the gun, because the gun also has that glow, not only the subject, like this. So to select out the gun from the image, what we are gonna use is a tool called quick selection tool. So you just gotta click it, and the great thing about quick selection tool, it just snaps to your image. Like hold shift and then just like now it looks like it's bad, but it's just gonna snap like that. You just gotta select it and it just snaps automatically, and it's almost perfect for the majority of the time. Like look here just some details have been left, but you can easily fix that using Alt, and it's gonna minus. Shift is for plus and Alt is for minus, remember that. It's gonna help you a lot. So as you have seen, the whole gun is selected out. Pretty good, I guess. And now we are just gonna click on this button, apply layer mask, and that will create a layer mask. And what layer mask does is that it just, how do I explain? It just deletes all the thing but the thing you have selected, like all of the other things but not the thing that you have selected. So now you can see we've got a gun cut out, and it's looking really good. So what we're gonna do is just duplicate this effect, the brush settings that we do, create a clipping mask. And now what we're gonna do is just take out our brush tool again, and what we're gonna do is select it and then do this again. So now, as I was telling you, you just gotta select this, and then you're gonna select the white color, and what you're gonna do is just here like this. So now you can see that it actually becomes way more better, and you're gonna do that to all of the remaining part that is missing, and just like this, and that's how it's done. So that's why we created a layer mask. And then you're just gonna give it some more splashes of yellow so it looks more like it's bright and it's shiny. So yeah, that makes up for a really great effect. Like, look at that looks 10 times better. And you also gotta do this to the subject as well, because you can see the gun is glowing but the hand is not, which looks very weird. So what you're gonna do is create a big brush and just do this a little bit. And yeah, now you can see the hand is also glowing, and it's all like setted. And now as the highlights are done, actually let me just do it. Let's just do the effect on his eyes too, so that it will look like the chamber is in god mode kind of type, which you can do also, or if you want you can just skip this part, but I think it looks really cool. So now you see we have done the highlights and all, we have done the glow. Now what we are gonna do are add some particles, add some things to fill out the thumbnail, cause right now it's looking pretty plain. So let me add those things, and I'm gonna meet you right after. So now I have added a couple of things. I have imported it into Photoshop. So the first thing I imported is this white particles type, which you're gonna add in the BG below the subject layer, and then I've added this fire particles, which will add in the front, and then I've added this champion logo, which we're gonna add in background and in the front, so that it gives a depth of field and it kind of fills the thumbnail out. So first of all, for the white particle, so we're gonna change its blending mode to screen, so that only the white particles are visible, and then we're gonna drag it all the way down to here. So now you can see the white particles are not actually visible, so we're gonna control J and duplicate it, and now they are visible. So we're gonna merge these layers, change the blending mode again, and boom, there you go. And then we are gonna, for the fire particles, what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna rescale it up, and as you can see this pretty much looks good. So we're gonna just do a screen, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just apply layer mask, and then use my brush tool and select black color and just wipe it off like that. So not all visible, but it's visible. So now it's visible, but the thing is that these are orange and the whole thumbnail is yellow, so they do not look really nice. So what we are gonna do is just select orange color, orangish, and we are just gonna splash. Now what we're gonna do is change the blend mode to linear dodge, and we're just gonna play with the opacity a little bit, and it still looks pretty bad. So okay, what we're gonna do is just create here hue and saturation layer, and just gonna now clip it to the fire particles, and gonna colorize, and then go to the yellow and just increase saturation, and now look how great that looks phenomenal. And for one more thing I want to do is that I'm gonna just select this orangish color, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna do this, and then I'm gonna change its blending mode to linear dodge add, and then I'm gonna just, so that it looks way more good and it looks like light is coming from below. So now for the final. Now if you apply the thing that we have been doing for the previous pictures, we guys do screen, then you can see that the logo gets transparent. So instead of doing that, we are gonna use a tool known as magic eraser tool. So it's right in the eraser tool, but right click and then you find magic eraser tool, and then if we click, you can see it disappears the background like that. And there you go, we have a new logo without the background. So now we're gonna just create it, like resize it a bit, just do it like right here. Now that looks good. We're gonna copy it by alt and then dragging it out, and then look at this. Nice. We're just gonna resize it and adjust to our needs like that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna create one and put it behind the subject like this, like that. So now the thumbnail actually looks way more filled in than it was. And what I'm actually also gonna do is just create a hue and saturation layer again, clipping mask, colorize, and just gonna change its blending mode to and make it yellow. That's right, sorry about the blending mode, there's no blending mode, do not repeat what I say. And just create the logo yellow so it matches the theme and all. And now we are gonna add some motion blur to this so that they look like they're moving a bit and create a depth of field. And we're gonna add this to every champion's logo. And now what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna add some splashes like this to the logos, so the logos look way more glowing. And we're gonna change this to linear dodge, and we're gonna change the opacity so they look like they're glowing, and it actually looks pretty good. And now I think we are almost done with the thumbnail. Now what we're gonna do is go to the top layer and click Alt Control E, Alt Control Shift E. So it will create a new layer consisting of all the layers we see. So yeah, and then we are gonna go to filters and camera raw filter, and there's where the magic happens, because now we're gonna make it way more clear, way more good. And the exposure is a lot, so I'm gonna just dim exposure a little bit, apply some contrast and highlights and shadows. I want whites to be seen less and blacks to be seen more, and texture should be full, clarity should be full, and then dehaze should be really good. So yeah, so as you can see, this thumbnail is looking pretty darn good right now. So I'm just gonna make it more vibrant and add some saturation too, and a little bit more exposure maybe. Nah, it got all yellow. Why? Wait a minute. Yeah, now, yeah, that looks pretty good. No. So now you have seen how it got so clear and how we play with the settings. And I think that's it for the thumbnail. Now you can just export it using file, export as. And what we are gonna do is do it by 1920 and 1080p, but as you see it's 2.6 and the YouTube thumbnail limit is only 2 MB. So what we are going to do is just uncheck the transparency, but that won't make it go away. So what you're going to do is just change its whole to 720p, and before we had to make it 720, we made it in 1080p. Then you guys are going to be asking me, why am I changing it if I made it at 1080p? Because now I have the actual Photoshop file in 1080p, but I'm just exporting it at 720p. If I had done 720p from the beginning, I would have the whole Photoshop file at 720p, which is way less quality. So now you can see it's 1.2 MB, it's 720p. You can export it, save it wherever you like, and that's it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something new. If you guys did, make sure to like this video, give me a thumbs up. They're both the same thing. Subscribe please, and see ya later.